Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to another first in Campfire Tales history. It's another mono episode, but this time not with Jamie. This time it's just me and Dave, and ooh, it's gonna get a little sensual. Hey, Dave, how you doing?
Doing well. How are you, Eli?
Oh, living the dream. Hey, Dave, can I ask you two questions?
Two questions.
Questions tonight.
I guess that's fair since it's just me.
Yeah.
I'm the only target on the board.
First question: you've listened to me, what it's like with just me and Jeff.
Mm-hmm.
You've listened to what it's like with just me and Jamie.
Yep.
What are you expecting, just me and you?
Well, I mean, we're going to talk a lot of woods,
Of course,
a lot of rural. We're gonna break down some southern and pseudo southern like traditions.
of course. I don't like the pseudo southern. It's funny because when I picked the tale for tonight, I picked one that kind of takes place in a rural setting on purpose.
Sweet. Perfect.
When I knew it's just me and you. Second question for you.
Okay.
Let's say you and your lady are driving late in the night.
Mm-hmm.
And you're driving, your lady goes, "That's weird. There's a falling star going by the moon." Very quickly, you realize it's not a falling star. As this thing starts following you and hovering over your car, and then it almost lowers what feels like somebody on top of your car. Are you going to do? You have two choices here. Are you going to A, floor it and try to get the hell out of there? Or B, are you going to see this 80-foot massive object hovering over your car that's followed you for miles? Are you going to stop your car, reach in your glove box and pull out a gun and think, "Hey, I'm going to fight this 80-foot thing from space here in the middle of the road"?
I don't know if I would be thinking I'm going to fight it. I'm going to try something. Let's just be honest.
You are going to try something.
Intergalactic war, but when you got what you got and the thing's been following you, I'm not going to floor it. I mean, it flew here from, presumably another planet. So me going 80 in a pickup truck is not going to fix anything other than killing me and my, as you call her, my lady friend. So you look around what tools you have with you and you try a few things.
I don't want to say that out of all the Wicked Wild crew that you're from your answer, do I think now you're most likely to be probed? But
that's exactly what you want to say.
That's exactly what I want to say. That's exactly what I want to say. Hey, so as you know, last episode, the main show, we talked about Color Out of Space. So I thought, let's talk about something else out of space. So tonight we're going to talk about the Betty and
Dave's
Barney.
anus. Oh, wait.
Sorry. Oh, well, that's going to make an appearance multiple times. If anything, I feel like if when you do the YouTube, when you upload this to YouTube, you should make the little YouTube picture, just picture your butthole. Yeah, I'm sure we definitely won't get it removed.
Good note. Great note.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. But we're going to talk about the Betty and Barney Hill incident, a famous abduction swish story. Probably one of the most famous. Hey, Dave, are you familiar with the Betty and Barney Hill incident?
Yeah, I mean, I was more of a Fred Flintstone than
fair enough.
Barney
Yeah,
and Betty. So
yeah, of course.
Yeah, very familiar with them. I mean, course. Barney was. I mean, he was the traditional. He was sort of the prototypical sidekick.
Of course,
for all modern sitcoms. So
of course, and there was an alien in the Flintstones.
Of course, yeah,
yeah. You know,
the worst part of that whole series, but he was
of the many things that made it terrible. I hated the Flintstones. Hated it.
But I assume that's what you're talking about, right, Betty and Barney?
No, not talking about that at all. Not talking about that at all. What I'm talking about is like I said, probably one of the most famous and studied UFO / abduction instances that's probably occurred in what I would say the modern age. If we count the 60s in the modern age, which I do, that's when it occurred. But it's been studied for years after, and a lot of weird stuff. And it's one of those ones where there's been a lot of scientific study, and there's some evidence involved that just can't be explained.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Science has let us down once again.
I mean, I feel at this point, when science is the sole reason AI is become smarter than us and is doing things we now can't control, science already let us down. And you also have a bunch of crackpot scientists like that guy in Russia who found that the largest virus frozen in the ice, and thought, you know what? I'm gonna put that in me, see what happens. The science is
What's
already
he doing?
This may shock you. Russia really hasn't given an update. They're not really telling us. Not really spreading that information. So he could be fine. He could be dead. He could look like the fellow from Slither at this point. I don't know.
I was thinking the Thing, but definitely one of those things could be happening.
Okay, all right. Sidetrack here a little bit. If he's going to turn into something, is that what you're hoping for? Is the Thing, or is there something like me? I love the Thing. Don't necessarily know if I want to be in the Thing, so I'm like kind of hoping for something else.
I think the beauty of the Thing is that society immediately breaks down when they figure out that there's an alien that could look like anybody. That's all bets are off at that point.
Yeah. Can you?
And as I said before, you look around, you see what tools you have, and you try some stuff.
After getting to know me and kind of seeing what I would call my ascension into the Mole King over the last couple of years, how do you think I'm going to be if that scenario is the one that plays out?
I think you're going to immediately assume everybody is the Thing.
100%.
Grease yourself up.
100%.
Slide in the first hole in your backyard.
100%.
Into
100%.
Listen, that's trying some stuff. I applaud you.
Hey, we got some rabbit holes in the back, and Mary keeps saying, "Hey, we need to fill those up," and I'm like, "Not yet.
Give it a minute.
Not yet.
Let that one simmer."
Yeah, just let him make it bigger. That's less digging for us. And then she goes, "What?" And I go, "Don't worry about it."
And then you go, "Oh yes, rabbit holes."
Yeah,
rabbit holes. That's what those are.
Yep. Yeah, definitely not me in the middle of the night in my underwear digging with my hands. Hey, let's talk about Betty and Barney Hill. So, just kind of set up the premise. Betty and Barney Hill saw a UFO and later was determined they were potentially abducted in a rural area of New Hampshire between September 19th and 20th, 1961. The incident known as the Hill Incident. The first thing that kind of made this incident where people automatically didn't think those two were on meth, those two were on some other kind of drug, or they were trying to fake this was for money, is that these were not just two hillbillies eating cow poop mushrooms and claiming they're abducted by aliens. They were pretty big in their community in New Hampshire. Barney worked for the U.S. Postal Service, and Betty was a social worker in the area. They were also very active in the community as they were an interracial couple during a time when that was an issue. And Barney was a part of various civil rights commissions and groups to promote civil rights. So it's not like I said, this was not just these people were kind of in the community. They were active in the community. They were well known in the community. They had good standing within the community. So it's not like they were just somebody. Like in this story, typically
functioning adults. Is that
they were functioning adults, and typically in society, when you come out and say, "Hey, I saw a UFO and they abducted me," historically that has been frowned upon. And you have been shamed or ridiculed. So the folks that have come forward and said that are not typically of some type of high social status within their communities, because as soon as you come out and say that, then you lose everything.
I think, to your point, I think the great thing is that both postal work and social work are both industries that we have no record at all of people coming under, say, emotional duress.
No,
changing their behavior.
None whatsoever. I'm not sure the term "going postal" comes from. I think that's just by I don't know who's the post office's natural born enemy. Amazon, Jeff Bezos.
News. Yeah,
that's something Jeff Bezos put forward.
Yeah, that's a UPS campaign.
Postal. Right. Well, isn't UPS basically? No, you're thinking about. Hey, isn't that the same thing?
United States Postal Service is not the same as the United Parcel Service.
Whatever. They both deliver stuff. Whatever.
One's brown, one's white. Wait, hold on.
Yeah.
One's trucks are brown.
That's true.
One's trucks are white.
Yeah, that's true.
You get that really clear. Sorry.
Uniform wise, too, one uniform is blue, one uniform is brown.
Exactly.
And no matter what time of year, always wearing shorts.
And
driving with their door open.
For friggin' days.
Yep.
Like a couple of cantaloupes below the knee there.
Oh, yeah.
Impressive.
And they drive that big square truck always 900 miles an hour. So
a total non sequitur, but it did literally happen yesterday. I was working from home yesterday. I work remote some days and at the office other days. Well, yesterday, literally my mailman, who I know and we have a good relationship, my two dogs were at the window when he got there because he was having to drop some stuff on the door instead of in the mailbox. And they both went nuts. They're asleep behind me right now, but they're pretty good sized dogs. One's a German Shepherd Husky mix and one's a German Shepherd Rottweiler mix. So they're decent sized dogs. Anyway, they're both barking and he's talking to him through the window. And I come to the door and said, "Hey, how's it going?" He goes, "Oh, I just saw your dogs. I love dogs." He said, "Are they friendly?" I said, "Well, one of them is." I just left it that way. I'll let you keep guessing, Mr. Mailman, which one is which.
Because we all know I like you, but I don't trust you.
Exactly. And as long as you think that one of these dogs is friendly and one ain't, we can continue to be friends.
Yeah. Sometimes I like to mess with our mailman because we have a slot in our door with like the mailbag. Yeah. And sometimes I like to mess with them when I hear them put in there. I'll stick my hand and like shuffle a little bit, so he never knows what to expect. I want him to think because he hears our dogs barking, but we have two Shih Tzus, so they're not doing anything to anybody. But he don't know that.
No reason for a post person to have any sort of emotional duress in their life that might lead them to see things that aren't there. Because there's assholes like us.
Yeah, I was gonna say maybe we are the reason this happened.
Oh, there's no maybe.
Problem. Okay. Fair enough. Another fact about the Hills. This is just a little fun fact. One of their granddaughter fights professionally for the UFC, and was actually was a featherweight champion for a while.
Really? What was her name?
I didn't write that down to protect the innocent.
Okay, fair enough.
I also forgot to write it down.
It wasn't Bam Bam. It's Pebbles. That was her name. Pebbles.
Well, no, I thought Pebbles was. No, you're right. It's Bam Bam was. No, Bam Bam was Barney's. Pebbles was the Flintstones.
Was it?
Yeah. So you got backwards. I don't even like the fucking Flintstones, and I know more about them than you do.
Now I've got them in your head.
Now, look, you son of a bitch.
Over here reprogramming Eli as we speak.
I don't. If I start watching the Flintstones, I'm gonna be real mad. I'm real mad. I didn't even like the made for TV or not made for TV movie, the actual live action movie. And I love John Goodman, but not even he could say that.
Not like this. Not like this.
Not like this. I don't like seeing him like this. Okay.
I will say I will defend that it is the height of Hanna-Barbera animation. That's not a high bar, but it's between that and Yogi, and I think I have to give it to the Flintstones.
See, there's that thing about Yogi which I didn't like. Why does he always have still a picnic basket?
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Why's he got to be a thief? What's with all the propaganda?
And they're all like, it's fine. It's just picnic baskets. But like, if I'm going out on a nice picnic, taking someone on a date or something, and now I got to worry about a bear in a top hat coming to steal my food and a tie, but no shirt or pants, that's a problem.
When I've checked in with the ranger, and oh, by the way, they decided not to tell me there's an 8-foot friggin' bear in the woods that is 100% going to steal my food.
Right.
It's not a great park.
Right. Same thing with Smokey Bear. I don't trust him either. Once again, only wears pants, no shirt. And why does a bear know about fires?
Exactly.
Yeah. How do we know he wasn't the one starting the fires?
Did you see the footage of my bear encounter on Saturday?
That
was my Yogi moment.
I was sitting around with my father-in-law and some of his siblings and friends, and like I watched that, and I was like, "Oh shit!" They're like, "What?" I was like, "Watch this video. Look at the timestamps. Look at the timestamps."
Dave is always living on the edge. Y'all think I'm joking, but there's video footage of my life out here in the wood.
I tell you, one time I had some friends used to have a cabin, and we went the one time. We were all just, hanging out, whatever. And I was like, I'm gonna go sit in the tree up the hill a little bit in the mountains. I'm gonna read a book.
Mhm.
Fell asleep, like dozed off a little bit. It was nice, warm out, you know. I woke up and there was a bear walking by the tree. And as I silently shit myself and it kept walking, I did everything they tell you not to do when there's a bear close by. And as soon as it was just, I don't know, 25, 30 feet away,
you
took
tore
off
ass.
running. Oh, like a bat out of hell. I probably scared the shit out of it. Cause like probably didn't even notice me. And now next thing you know, I'm just like hauling ass to get out of that area.
With a brown streak running down your leg.
Didn't even look behind me, which is probably also not great. I was like, listen, if it gets me, I'm not going to know.
I'm going to make this effort. This is my one plan. That's before you had all of the poop strategies.
I was still developing my defense mechanisms at that time. You know, I was still developing it. Now, what would I do? I would take my pants off, then start running. So that way the shit really can fly. And then nothing's going to attack me.
And you would run confidently because you would know
it would actually give me some speed because, you know, I'm losing weight and it's propelling me forward. And I would say by the end of this tale, if I would have been in their shoes, none of this would happen because I'd have followed my defense protocol.
I am sorry I have yet to let you actually get into the story, but
hey,
there's been a lot of on point non sequiturs come up already.
Listen, this is what we do on the one-on-one Campfire Tales. All right. Okay. This is what we do.
So I'm not out of bounds, it sounds like.
No, not at all. Not at all. All right. So, hey, September 19th, 1961, Betty and Barney were driving back from their vacation in Niagara Falls, took a little vacation, heading back to Portsmouth, New Hampshire is where they lived. As they were coming through Lancaster, New Hampshire, they're driving, and Betty was just like looking out the window. It was nighttime, and she sees what she thought was a falling star, like kind of going across where the moon was. And then the falling star abruptly went straight up in the air and started moving erratically, and colors were changing, and thought, hey, you know what? That's not a falling star. So
it ain't falling anymore.
No. So she pointed to her husband Barney, and like they were kind of watching it. And so they decided, as they were driving through this rural area. They knew of a little side of the road picnic area. They're like, oh, we'll just pull in there. They had binoculars in the vehicle, and they're like, we'll just take a look. So they pull over, they get out their binoculars, and they're kind of watching this thing. Betty states that she sees something moving in and out of the light, this object, which she didn't know. And then as they're watching it, they kind of notice that now it's coming straight towards them. And which I will give them both credit for, her and her husband decide, well, we should probably get the fuck out of here. Because if this thing's going to hit, maybe it's a meteor or something, don't want to be in the vicinity. They take off driving again. So as they're driving, they're noticing that this thing is kind of following them. And, they get a little nervous because, at first what they thought was a falling star turned into what they didn't know. And now it's following them. If it was me, I'd be like, is that a missile? Did they finally find me? What's happening? So they end up driving for a little bit, and they're kind of like, driving, and like, some of the reports I read, like Barney would like speed up and then it would kind of like speed up to get close to them. And then he was like, well, that's weird. And he would slow down, and then it would kind of slow down with them. So as they were driving, they, finally, this thing comes up over directly to their car and lowers. So it's only about 50 to 80 feet above their car, they say. And it's just kind of like hovering over them while they drive. This is where I say the first mistake was made. Barney was like, well, I'm tired of this shit. Proceeds to stop the car, reach in the glove box and pull out his gun, and gets out of the car like he's going to scare it away. Now, Betty at this point describes the object as being 40 feet long. They kind of go back at points. They say it almost looks cylindrical. Then they go like, well, it's more round when it was hovering over us. So me personally, would not have gone out of the car with a gun to the thing
Would you
that
have
could.
floored it? What would you have done?
I would have drove through the woods because we all know once you get in the woods, can't catch me. Basically, the gingerbread man when I'm in the woods.
You'd have just rammed your vehicle into the woods.
Yeah, and just hope for the best. Because what's the alternative? This fucking flying thing that chased me from space is going to catch up?
I think I have more evidence that hitting the woods at 80 miles an hour will kill me than evidence that getting out of the car.
I feel like I would rather die by driving at extreme speeds through the woods than by something coming from space. You know what I mean? Because here's the thing. I don't know what's coming.
The epitaph that has a little more razzle dazzle to it.
More razzle dazzle. Here lies Dave. Something flew over him. He got out of the car, and then the spider people came out and stomped him to death.
Exactly. You heard that story, right? Other than here lies Dave, the dumbass drove his truck into the woods at 80 miles an hour.
No, it would be like here lies Eli, took a harrowing trip
through the
forest to avoid disaster and lost his life in the line of duty. That's what I would put.
Literally. And it's DOODY.
How dare you? How dare you? So they're sitting there and then so the thing is now kind of like floating above. There's bobbing up and down. So Barney asks his wife to hand him binoculars, and he's kind of looking at the object through the binoculars, and he claims he found this almost port looking thing in the side of it, and he saw what he thought was 8 to 11 people that kind of looked like they were wearing black outfits and looked like they were wearing hats. He wasn't sure with the distance, but that's what it looked like. Kind of just watching them.
The Jabberwockies, the dance troupe, Jabberwockies.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
They're just hey, we're just trying to get the next show. We're just asking for directions. Why do you keep speed up and looking at the woods? Why do you have a gun? And at this point, they don't really know how long they stood out there and kind of watched these things that hovered above them. But before they know it, it kind of takes off again.
Wait, so how did they see all the people in the ship? Was the ship clear?
No, he said when he was looking at through the binoculars, he kind of found this porthole look, this large kind of porthole area.
Yeah.
And they were just kind of standing there
oh, they were all peeping out of the ship's rectum.
Yeah, basically at them, the puckering hole. Probably what are you doing with that gum, bro? We're in a flying saucer. What the fuck?
Slow down, dude.
Yeah, you don't even know what we're gonna do here. You may have won the publisher clearinghouse sweepstakes, and you're waving.
They got that kind of money. They could put a research together.
I feel if you have a spaceship,
yeah, you got some bank.
Yep, bank, bro. They don't know how long they kind of sat there and watched it, but they said some time passed. They weren't sure how long. It took off. Now here's where the story starts getting weird. So they got in the car, they continued driving home. They both were very nervous and scared through the drive. They really didn't know what happened. They were very concerned. They weren't sure if the thing was still following them. So when they finally made it to their house about dawn, they believe, they kind of got out of the car with their suitcases. They left their suitcases by the door because they were concerned they might have to make a quick getaway. This thing tries to get in the house. And they were so tired that both of them went right into bed, didn't even take their clothes off. And they slept for some time. They're not even sure how much they slept. All they know is, so this happened on the night of the 19th. They woke up on the 21st. In their bed. Betty got up first and still wearing her clothes. And she decided, okay, I'm going to take my clothes off, put in the closet, take a shower or bath. Who knows, in the 60s, some people still bathing like heathens instead of showering. And it's she's I'm not cleaned off. As she's taking her dress and jacket off, she realized that a bunch of the hems are torn and her clothes are covered in this, what they described as pink dust. And she looked at her shoes, which she fell asleep in, and her shoes were destroyed. So in a panic, she woke up Barney, who looked, once again, his clothes, the hems were kind of torn in places. His shoes were also destroyed, also covered in pink dust. So, they're a little concerned about this. So Barney did the logical thing, which I don't know how logical it is. Didn't call the police, didn't call the military. Instead, he called, which I'm assuming he found in a phone book, the National Investigations Committee on Aerial Phenomena. On September 21st, like after they woke up and got cleaned up, they kept their clothes off to the side. Well, so let me go back a step. Before they called them, they were concerned about what that pink powder was and that their clothes were kind of torn. So they kind of put them off the side. They then, which I don't know, like they kind of concentrate on this in some of the when you read this, and it's kind of gross, but they're like, they went in the bathroom and inspected each other. And
nice.
Every story makes a point that Barney inspected his genitalia and found nothing wrong. And so then they decided to shower and get cleaned up.
If you had a high stress situation, you feel like there's some unconscious shenanigans that happened to you, Eli, what is the first thing you're checking?
They don't need to put that in. Like when people are like talking about this in articles, they don't have to be like,
I'm sorry,
Barney looked at his testicles.
I'm sorry. That's the whole reason I think this report is legit. They're telling the truth. You give the toolbox a little quick rustle.
Fair enough. So this the National Investigations Committee sent out some investigators to look at it. They took samples of their clothing. They inspected them. It doesn't say if they looked at Barney's genitalia, but I'm assuming that he's probably like, hey, look at my genitals. They're fine. I checked them already.
Get a second opinion.
And they interviewed, so like they were there for like over 6 hours interviewed them together. They interviewed them separately. They found there was consistency in their story that, in how they told it, they were just like, hey, this is like what it was. Like, we just want to report this. We were concerned because there's pink stuff on us. They took the samples and then they like took the report and they left. Now, they decided at this point, Barney and Betty, to not go to the media, not really put out there that this event occurred. They're like, we're just going to go back to our normal lives. Gotta forget about this. So the lab started testing the pink powder. Didn't know what it was. They have tested it multiple times since then because they kept all this evidence. And then at one point, Betty works for a university in New Hampshire. She requested that it be sent there so that some of the scientists that work for the university could test it. There's never been a clear answer what that pink powder was, but they have the pink powder. They just don't know what it is.
They have the pink powder. That's
on their clothes. That's a little side note. So about 10 days go by and Betty starts having some really weird dreams. She has them for about 5 days in a row. And every night she'd wake up from them. She'd write down what she had. And in her dreams, she stated that her and Barney were by the car and they couldn't go in this dream. And next thing she knows, the car is surrounded by these 4 to 5 feet tall, what looked like humanoid like men, but they were wearing very dark blue uniforms with dark blue hats, which she stated they look military cadet like. They had black hair, very dark, almost black eyes, very prominent noses and blue lips, and their skin was gray. She said they were standing by the car surrounded by them. And then she believed in the dream, she goes unconscious. And when she wakes up, she's being led through the forest by these people. She can see Barney, who's walking almost in a daze, being led through the forest with her. And then they're walking through the forest. And the next thing she knows in the dream, they're back at their car. The people tell her you can't leave until we leave. They wait until they can't see the ship as it ascends into the sky, and then they both get in the car and drive away. She has the same dream 5 nights in a row.
This is a very similar description to the MIBs in the Mothman story, right?
Yes, which is another thing people point out. That now there was also a couple science fiction tales at the time that also had somewhat similar descriptions, but what people argue is, did those writers get those ideas from live reports or reports that occurred in these events, different events that was happening around this time, or did these people get it because they were fans of these stories?
Yeah, chicken or egg.
Right. That's where it gets weird. And like they really can't pinpoint. They really can't pinpoint what came first, because especially in the 50s and 60s, a lot of this stuff was happening, and there was a lot of these reports that were like coming out, and like all this stuff was happening. Well, I say 50s and 60s was real heavy, but then you also had these like weird incidents occurring even right around World War II, but they were kind of kept on the hush hush, like different military bases. So like it's hard to say. So she was telling Barney about these dreams, and they were getting very concerned. And he was like, she was getting very concerned. He was like, listen, don't worry about it. It's just something weird happened. You're just having nightmares. And like, as they were like, he was like trying to calm her, and then they're trying to talk about the event. They both know that they're having trouble remembering aspects of it. And they feel like there's more memories there, but like they can't, for some reason, their brain just can't access them. So they kind of get concerned, and they start looking into ways to help them remember. So they contact the investigators before, and they're telling them what's going on. At some point, someone suggests them, well, maybe you should go under hypnosis to try to remember these events. And they don't want to just go to like a regular hypnosis. They want somebody who's familiar, which the innocence of the 60s. They're like, we want somebody who's familiar with this type of stuff, because they're like, if they're going to be trying to get us to remember these, then they need to know like the cues or things to say to like pull these type of memories. So like they went around until they finally, the investigators helped them find somebody who would do it. And they both went under hypnosis. And now here's where the reports get a little weird, because
this is where they get weird.
This is where it gets even weirder, because there are various kind of reports and swish manuscripts about what they said during the hypnosis procedures, and part of that is due to, apparently there was the manuscript, the notes that were taken written in the room. They were not taken word for word. I don't believe they were taken word for word. Well, it was what they claimed. Like some guy listened, took notes, and like kind of told them what they said. But then somehow a reporter, someone who would participate in that, sent them a different manuscript that had more details, and that's ended up going to the media. And like then there was like other reports. Like it got real muddy here. Barney and Betty like kind of went public at various times a little bit. They talked about this stuff. There wasn't inconsistencies. People have argued that it felt like they weren't saying something, or they were like trying to cover up stuff, or maybe they were trying to hide it, but they were both still trying to live their normal life through this. So I feel that could have something to do with it. And then down the road, Barney got very sick, and when he died, Betty started like going to conventions and talking, and she kind of stayed with the what I'll call the G-rated, what she was told or what happened during the hypnosis. But if it's the full story, I don't know if we'll ever know for sure. But I'll tell you the G-rated first, Dave, and then I'll tell you the chicka wow wow version.
Ooh.
G-rated version was under hypnosis. They remembered that these aliens came down, basically wanted to talk to them and kind of interview them, look at them, said they were like trying to make contact, took them out to a wooded area to like talk to them and kind of get a feel for humanity and interview them basically and kind of inspect a human. They both believe they were in a trance because they said when they came up to them while they were standing next to their car, they looked directly in their eyes and then they both kind of feel like their will give away and they were just doing whatever the alien said. So they believe that there was some type of either, they don't know if it was mind control. They don't know if it's some kind of, mental ability that they had, but they went out in the woods with them, spent some time with them, talking with them. They were telling them that, hey, we come from the stars, telling them all this stuff. The description they gave them from the stars was very accurate, which they gave when they were under telekinesis. And later, some astronomers was actually able to pinpoint the location based on the information from these hypnosis to the area they believe that if they're telling the truth, where these aliens came from, because the various stars and mapping things they were talking about in space, the detail they had, which neither one of these two were astronomers. So people find that also very interesting. And then basically they took them back to the car when they were done, told them, you need to watch us leave and watch us so that this is real. And then after they left, they both went home. Now, that's the G-rated. What do you think of that?
I think that's the core story I'm familiar with. I'll put it that way.
Okay.
Like that's the made-for-TV version. So
right,
hit me up, Eli.
No.
I mean we're on Campfire Tales.
We are Campfire
We can't
Tales.
leave it there.
No, I will say this. Based on that story, there are some unanswered questions.
Yes.
What was the pink powder? Why were their clothes torn?
I have a theory.
Why were their shoes destroyed? Why did they remember stuff? Why did this take place over the span of 3 days? Those are questions people have. I get it. Now, the other version is it did not stop at them just going to the woods, having a little powwow, and being like, all right, well, go back. Apparently, during some of the hypnosis sessions, it was said that they were taken on the ship. They were put on tables where they were inspected thoroughly.
Of course.
But
did they inspect Barney's junk? Because he would he would want to know.
According to some reports, they were trying to figure out how human reproduction worked. So I would say his junk probably had some pink powder on it. You know what I mean?
I do.
There are some reports that maybe there was some probing and test. That's why but some say they just had them based on this table. They had equipment that were kind of learning the anatomy and figuring stuff out.
Like a kid with a frog or something like that.
Yeah, that they were actually taken into space where all this occurred. And that's why the time jump is so long, because they weren't actually on Earth for an extended period of time. That's why their clothes were torn, because like they're aliens, they don't really give a fuck about undressing you properly and dressing you again. That's why their shoes were destroyed. They were like trying to figure out like all that stuff, and like they're basically test subjects for an extended period of time. And when they were done with them, they brought them back, put them in their car, and was like, all right, thanks. So I've seen some reports that are like they had machines that looked in some buttholes and some stuff.
Is that where that whole meme started? Is it this story? Because this comes before the down below where they had probing too.
So that's once again, that's where it gets weird, because like there are other ones where like it's been hinted at, but what's I think a lot of times when you have these incidences of what I would call I don't automatically disbelieve based on the data presented to me.
It's compelling. Is that what you're saying?
Compelling. They always seem to be a little muddy, because like there is so many reports about what was said during those hypnosis sessions. Do you believe Betty, or would you find it reasonable that because once again after this happened, they try to go back to their normal life and be like, okay, well, we're just never going to talk about this again. And then all of a sudden this manuscript got to the press where there's all these other details, and now the press is writing articles and going at it, and like their life kind of got crazy for a hot minute. And then like there's various other reports that are like, oh, well, we found these other notes, and like, who knows? That's where it gets weird, because people are the fucking worst.
Yeah.
Instead of just being honest and telling us what happened, they're like, his pee-pee was touched by this.
They put something up my cornhole.
Which, if we're being honest, that is kind of a cool story. Be like, an alien touched my wiener. Depending on how they did stories, I guess. There are. Depending on if they're like, well, they were slapping and punching it, like, that's not a good story. You know?
They pointed and laughed. It's not.
That's not a great story either. But they're like, well, they just poked it. I'm like, oh, okay, well, that makes sense.
They put some pink dust on it.
And so during this hypnosis, they believed that whatever this eye thing was with these blocks, they remembered. Like I said, it did go to the media. There's been movies made. They've been on TV shows. Barney's first interview was like during, I think, the 70s or 80s, when he officially, there was a TV show talking about this. By this point, a bunch of these incidents have happened and been reported. And it said like Barney, the reason he came forward, or like he agreed to be on the show, was like, well, now there's all these people who kind of experience what I experienced. Like, it's enough to be concerning at this point.
Right.
And so he appeared on like some TV shows like the 70s, 80s, a couple like talking about the incident. I watched a couple clips. He seems very credible. Betty did a couple, seemed very credible. Some people say like they just did it for the money, but like they didn't really make money off this until like Barney died, I believe, in like the late 80s, early 90s. He was very sick. After that, Betty kind of went to some UFO convention and was talking to people and like telling the story. I doubt she made millions or even thousands
from this story
off doing this. So like the people that argue that, well, they just, I don't know. There's so much time that passed between it. And like, it's not like she was doing a bunch of TV shows. She just went to some conventions and talked about it.
Mm-hmm.
So, and we have the pink powder. You just don't know what it is.
I wonder why we haven't done any more chemical research on that.
They do. They every so often they test it. It's all the belongings that they were wearing that night are still in custody of the university. I believe she retired from, who she asked to look into it because she wasn't getting answers. And like you can see articles that also like they test it and like people are like, well, it's got all these compounds in it, and they're like, well, what is it? Like, no, pink powder. What's it used for? Powder stuff. I don't know. You have to ask those guys.
These are some crack scientists we've got working on this case.
Listen, I don't know if you know this, when it comes to any type of compelling, like, you know, alien or like paranormal or supernatural stuff, I don't know what it is, but a lot of these scientists are just like, I'm a guy. I used to work at a gas station. Now I'm a scientist. How do you become a scientist? I used to poke bugs with sticks. And I tasted stuff. Like, I just see something on the ground. I'm like, I wonder what that tastes like. Now I'm a scientist.
Fair enough.
That's the Betty Barney Hill thing. What do you think about that?
I think it's a good story.
Now let me ask this. Do you think it really happened?
I have my own theory.
All right, what's your theory?
So, bear with me.
Okay, I'm listening.
My theory is that Betty and Barney did not know each other at all before September 21st. That what had actually happened is that these were two people living totally different lives. Barney, actually, his name is Tad Shenwick. He's from New Hampshire. He was an artichoke farmer in New Hampshire, but he liked to frequent the night scene in New York. He loved to go to a little place you probably heard of called Studio 54, which was also a place that a little program called Project Artichoke and then MK Ultra used to dose people for testing.
Mm-hmm,
Then they would take those people and reprogram them to see how much they could compel them into doing things. So they put this quote unquote Betty and Barney together with the story that they had just come from their second honeymoon, put them on the road with this pink dust, which was obviously a new engineered strain of LSD and cocaine. The hymns is just part of the Studio 54 scene. I mean, things get rowdy in the club.
Right.
They come down off the cocaine right as the LSD hits on their way home. They see these visions. They get home. They actually go in to this house that is set up by the government with all the programming, and then wake up on the 21st. Now, the most compelling part of my story is the fact that the audacity of the government agents of Sidney Gottlieb and his cronies to name them Betty and Barney, which just so happens to be a brand new sitcom that came out September 20th, 1960. And the other interesting thing is at Studio 54 the same night, another group of people was dosed, got together, were told they were musicians. They got together and in 1969 in September launched a little band called Earth, Wind and Fire, who came out with their first hit. And you know what that hit was named, Eli?
What was that hit named?
September. Do you remember the 21st night of September?
Wow. Yeah, this may be the most compelling piece of investigative theory I've ever heard. I do have one question, though.
Okay.
What about their very public lives being married well before this, and them working for the civil rights cause? How did MK Ultra trick all of that?
Are you
especially considering a group who notoriously at this time did not trust the government to do the right thing?
Are you telling me that wouldn't be the prime candidate, that Betty was getting too close, that what she was doing with the movement was disrupting what they were trying to do? She was doing her own investigation. Are you telling me that our government would not have the capacity to go back and falsify records that then can be validated by the people themselves of saying, yeah, we've been married for 5 years, and because they know their own story that has been programmed into their brain? It becomes a very easy game of cat and mouse in the 60s when records were tenuous at best.
Wow. You know what I hate about that theory?
How good it is?
Well, no, I always appreciate your theory. What I hate is you've tied such loose and already frayed ends that there's not much I can do to argue it, because technically a lot of
all
your
the facts I gave you are true.
Wrong. Yeah, that's what I hate about it. That's what I hate about it. Because trust me, do I believe this, that the government's done shady shit and stuff like that? Oh, 100%. Do I believe this instance?
Gave us this story.
Yeah. But can I argue it? No, because the facts are so frayed and shitty to begin with. Like,
there is pink dust on them.
Yeah, there's pink dust on them. They're looking at each other's genitals. MK Ultra, which they denied for years, and then I don't know, was it 10, 15 years ago? They're like, well, I mean, technically,
yeah,
technically it happened, but we didn't make any serial killers.
Well, and that's obviously the transition they were going through at this time. They were introducing drug cocktails to get people into an influenceable state. And then they were using this new invention called television to start to use to feed the messages. If you go back and watch the Flintstones, all of the messaging is there. If you break it down,
I love this.
I think you need to, Eli. I really think you of all people would really appreciate.
You're not going to convince me to watch the Flintstones the whole day. I love this series so much, and I hate it at the same time. Because the other thing too is the MK Ultra stuff. Because once again, am I glad that their government's been like, yeah, it's real. But then, all you argue is people are like, well, MK Ultra didn't do that. All you have to do is point at the fucking Unabomber because he was part of it.
Well, and
look what happened to him.
Not to shoot too close to our own ship, but you've got things that are good, great, greatest, ultimate, and then obviously ultra.
That's true.
And then MK obviously stands for Mole King.
Hold on, whoa! Mole King fights against MK Ultra, not part of it. Not part of it.
If you were a leading contributor to the new influence, what would be the thing you would argue you were fighting against it?
Well, no, I'm anti-establishment.
Just saying.
Pro Mole King establishment. That's the difference between me.
Just saying.
Wow! How dare you? How dare you? Don't you do that? Don't you do that? How dare you? How dare you try to put this on me? No, don't you go flash Illuminati symbols. How dare you try to put this on me? How dare you?
I mean, I didn't pick the name Mole King, but I did obviously know exactly what you were communicating to your kingdom, as you call them.
You are not turning something pure and innocent into part of the problem. That's not even how this works. Everybody knows every episode of Campfire Tales, Mole King, anti that establishment. Pro my establishment, anti that establishment.
Yeah, that doesn't sound like MK Ultra at all.
Man, I love that theory to hate at the same time. Love it and hate at the same time.
Just find it interesting.
But let's say we take that theory out, right?
Okay.
And we look at the story. Do you believe or do you not believe?
I mean, we've talked enough alien stuff at this point, and I think I don't know where you've landed. I don't know that I've ever gotten a clear picture or understanding of where you stand on all believing and not believing.
Yeah.
Do I believe there are other beings other than us in the universe? Of course I do. I do believe that. I don't think that anybody has gotten into a ship and traveled to our planet. What I do think is more likely, if anything has happened, is that there's an interdimensionality, that the vastness of space is much more manipulatable than we currently have technology and math to map. Like, it may be much easier to travel between planets through dimensional means.
Oh, for sure.
But I don't think somebody got on a ship and traveled here.
No, I'm the same. I know, like, people that like in my younger uneducated days, I was that one of the theories, which I think even Stephen Hawking, when he studied his black holes, like, black holes don't go to nowhere. Like, they go somewhere.
Yeah.
And
that information has to go somewhere.
Right. And so there was a theory that, well, they used the black holes to travel quickly. And I was like, well, that makes more sense then. Because even if you listen to some of the leaks like Bob Lazar and whatever, and they're using gravity engines, still the distance traveled, because they're not within this solar system, because we would have seen something by now.
Yeah. That's close enough that we could record something.
Right. And the distance they would have to travel is just painstakingly long. The interdimension, I find more, I think that's probably more accurate than them either. Or if they're like, if you listen, like, if you think string theory, where like the universe is actually like all these dimensions and are layered over top of each other, and there's points that you can slip through, like, that makes more sense to me. And even like the math, like, I think it was last year, there were some theoretical physicists who figured out the math that technically, if you had a way to basically fold parts of space, you had enough energy to basically make a tear, it would seal itself up, but you'd pass through and like make large. Now,
yeah, the Einstein-Rosen bridge has been a theory for a long time.
Right.
But the math is just getting more and more compelling.
Right. Where like they can actually like stand on it. And I also think that would make explaining the further you go out, how time gets real wonky between there and here. That explains that better than, things. But do I think people have been on a ship? If I had to guess, I say if they got on one, they've never got off one.
Mhm.
I just don't see them
They're nomadic.
tagging. Well, I mean, if they've abducted people, I just can't see them being willing to
Bring them back.
bring them back and be like, well, don't tell nobody. No one's gonna believe you. If anything, me personally, if I'm taking off my Moking hat, putting on my Eli hat,
Your real boy hat.
my real boy hat, I probably fall closer to what some people call like the Jane Goodall theory, where like they're more just watching us because we're a bunch of apes and we're figuring out how to do things with a power level that we don't fully understand, we can't fully control, and we're a super fucking petty race. And it's basically like if a bunch of chimps got a hold of guns, we'd be like, well, we should watch that. And I think that's what they're doing with us, just being like, they're like, oh, they figured out nuclear fission. Don't know if that's a great idea. We're gonna watch that. We're just gonna see what happens there.
So now they have AI,
and and they can't control it. They unleashed AI. They can't control it. Oh, and fission. They're thawing shit from the ice and injecting into themselves. Oh,
what a bunch of idiots. We don't have to worry about them anymore.
Yeah. So that's because that's like now, like, I don't know if you saw, like they've found tribes of primates and that are starting to use tools and build tools.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, we should keep an eye on that.
Yeah, and then you called Jeff out for being a
because he
arms dealer.
He wanted to skip steps. Okay,
he wanted to skip
all
the monkeys.
Like they just found them making spears and fishing, not fucking having AKs. You know what I mean? He's skipping steps.
He needs to slow up. Is that what you're saying?
What Jeff would do is what basically those nerds at Google do with AI. They create a bunch of shit. And they're like, fuck it. Let's just unleash it and see what happens.
Let's floor it.
Is there any controls on it? Nope, didn't build them. Didn't think about these scenarios. Oh, fuck. It's completely out of control. It's going to kill all of us.
And as soon as you have an ethical concern, you're out.
Yep, basically. And then that same story, that guy that basically did all this, raised an ethical concern, they fired him. And then they're like, holy fuck, it's creating its own language. It's lying to us. It's doing all this shit. Hey, can you come back? We really don't know what's happening here. And he went back, and I think only behind he's like, well, I might as well get a paycheck so I can buy fucking hookers and blow to enjoy before the fucking end times.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, maybe MK Ultra was up to no good for much longer and much more expansive than we think it was.
Oh, I'm sure it was.
We sure as hell wouldn't know at this point.
I mean,
you would being.
But no, don't you dare. I mean, you're not wrong because like people point, if you look, and this is what I love about 101, because like it's thing just fucking tailspins and spirals.
Oh yeah.
But like there are people that argue, like, if you look around the time frame this would happen, just the sheer amount of that's one of the theories why there were so many serial killers and like fucking wackety schmackety events occurring was because like MK Ultra was just like putting this like crazy drugs into the fucking population.
Yeah, they were doing whatever the hell they wanted.
Yeah, there was also a theory that it was caused by all the lead and gasoline at the time. People were breathing in the fumes. Like,
yeah, I mean, they had zombie slave camps around the world that they would send people to.
Yeah, if you want to know, like, if anybody ever questions, if you're sitting there, people listening, and you're questioning, like, well, I mean, like, this sounds kind of crazy. I want you to look up the plans, which you can find now is Freedom of Information Act with the JFK release that they did, the plans that the CIA had to try to kill what's his nuts in Cuba during the Cold War, and the absurdity and fucking Daffy Duck level nature of a lot of these plans.
They were trying shit.
There was one,
like I said, bringing it full circle, Eli. You find something that you don't know exactly what to do with. You reach into your toolbox and you try some shit.
Yeah.
That's what our government's been doing for years. Yeah.
Their one plan was like, we're going to make an explosive cigar with a fuse at the end, and then we're going to somehow sneak in the cigar. It'll blow him up. And like, people were like, how are you going to get him the cigar? We'll figure it out.
Why are you asking so many questions, bro?
They're like, the one person was like, we'll airdrop some, and like, we'll think
that's not suspicious.
It fell off a plane. They'll be like, oh wow, these good cigars fell off a plane. And someone was like, well, they make cigars in Cuba, so like
they make the best cigars.
It's not like it's hard to get a hold of of a cigar in Cuba, and they're like, "Oh fuck, back to the drawing board." But that was someone's idea.
Yeah.
Someone's idea,
and it got funded.
Yeah. Like it's just crazy. It's crazy. That's the world we live in. Like that's what we're doing now. Like listen, people. I keep saying on the Wicked Whispers, it's endgame now. I don't know how, but humans, we just fucked it up one too many times.
Yes, as our great Mo King has told you many times, submit and obey.
Yeah. Well, no, hold on. No, not like that. Not like that. I'm just saying, listen.
Yeah. No.
Hold on. Listen, I'm closer to a cult leader than I am MK Ultra. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. I thought I almost had you there.
No, never. Mo King don't fall for the shenanigans. You're the guy who fell for joining a cult.
I did.
Not me.
The imagination cult, though. Let's keep it real. It's a pretty great cult.
I mean, is it? It's a cult.
Yeah.
Has anybody
led by a huge purple dragon who only wants me to be empowered to use my imagination for good?
And Jim Jones only wanted people to go with socialism because it was going to make fairness for all.
No, he wanted to sell monkeys.
And that's just how everybody. That was first off, the sell monkeys was just a way to raise funding.
I've already heard this story.
Secondly, the sleeping with everybody, that was just his hobby. Everyone needs a hobby. Everyone needs a hobby. Yeah.
Everybody's got downtime as a truth.
What else are you going to do when you take your cult in the middle of unforgivable jungle and you realize this was a great mistake? What am I going to do with my free time?
Yeah, you don't at all sound like a malevolent force of messaging.
Listen, I am just here to spread word to the people, to help be that guiding light in these uneasy times, and to just prepare you for the worst. That's all I'm doing.
What would be your advice to somebody to have them prepare for the worst?
Well, it depends. What type of worst is it?
Take your advice. Would you say?
No. To prepare for it? Yeah, just listen to what I'm saying.
Just listen to what you're saying and
I have your best interest at heart. And nothing bad will happen. You know what that sounds like? A cult leader, not MK Ultra. MK Ultra is like, hey, sniff these drugs, and when we see all these weird random words, you're gonna eat fucking cat litter. Like that's what MK Ultra is. I don't do that. I build you up. I send you out. I don't ask for anything but loyalty.
Flintstones.
Oh my God. Flintstones are the worst.
They're a modern.
You don't know the song. Just made up as a year now. No, they're the worst. They didn't wear shoes. They didn't even wear shoes.
Town of Bedrock.
The worst town.
They're a page right out of history.
You know what they did to those poor dinosaurs? They made the one like clean the dishes. And they smacked the one on a stone tablet to write.
Yeah, you're saying the messaging that I was talking about. Like, I mean, I know that you're in the know.
I mean,
you're just spreading.
Wait, no, I'm not in that. No, cult leader, not MK Ultra Shrill. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Hey, Dave, why don't you tell these fine folks about the Wicked Wild?
George Bunnyman Washington.
Oh my God! No, don't you dare! Not even real. Not even real.
Thank you for listening. I did enjoy this. I hope my buddy Eli did too.
Always.
You can learn more about the podcast on our website, thewickedwild.com. You can follow us on social media. We're on Instagram at wickedwildpod. We're on X at wickedwildweare, and Slasher, which is the horror-only community, at wickedwild. We are there as well. If you enjoy consuming your podcast with video and like to see a couple of hairy guys talk, you can find us over on YouTube. Just search the Wicked Wild podcast on there. I guess that's the big news. It's about all we got going on right now.
If we ever start our own podcast, Just a Couple of Hairy Guys Talk's a really good name. It's a really good name.
You're always pitching new ideas at the end of these one-on-ones, aren't you?
Hashtag CM copyright Couple of Hairy Guys Talking or something like that. All of it. Hey, on another one final question for you, though. How much longer do you think X will be around before it implodes? I know every week we plug it, but like,
Well, I think, if you want to follow the trails, the evidence that's out there, even since the 90s and 2000s, MK Ultra or Mole King Ultra, as we now call it, moving forward.
No.
They have had spokespersons around the world kind of telling us about all this stuff that's happening. And one of theirs, DMX, told you that it's actually X that's going to give it to you.
First off, I hate how you do this, but I love it at the same time. Love it at the same time. That you listen. All I'm saying is, if we ever started a cult, biggest cult in the world,
Unstoppable.
Oh, we'd be unstoppable.
Is that your way of saying, "I love it, you son of a bitch"? Is that what you're saying?
That's exactly what I'm saying. No, I have yet to see someone who can spin such bullshit as myself. As you've done, it's
X gonna give it to you.
I'm a little
He's gonna
proud.
give it to you.
I'm a little proud right now. If I'm being honest, I'm a little proud.
Well, I like to do my overlord's bidding when he's giving me a true messaging call.
Well, you know what? And that's why you've now a table or a seat at the table, the Mole King table.
I have submitted and obeyed.
I will dig an extra hole for you. I should warn you though. You have to get into your underwear because clothes just get stuck on it. And no one wants to wear wet, muddy clothes. But hey, on that note, everybody, thanks for listening. We appreciate it. And remember, if you are ever driving with your loved one down a dark country road and the aliens hover directly above your car, maybe don't get out and wave your gun at it. Just guessing here. That's probably not going to have the outcome you think, because next thing you know, you're in a bathroom checking your genitals. Bye.
Don't fear Mole King Ultra.
It's not Mole King Ultra. Cult. I'm more of a cult leader, not a dark force. I want people to choose freely. MK Ultra didn't.
Should weaving spiders not be here? What's your opinion on weaving spiders? Just as we leave.
Well, if I'm being honest with you, I don't care for spiders. Everyone knows a spider is the fourth most dangerous animal in the world. First, killdeer. Second, a monkey with a spear.
So in general, you would say weaving spiders need not enter, is what you'd say.
How dare you? You son of a bitch. You know what? We need to talk after this because we got to do some recalculations here. Get you up to speed. Bye.